Hello YouTubes, today we're going to be doing an oil change on a 2015 Honda CRV all-wheel drive. Has the 2.4 Earth Dreams engine in it. So today you're going to need, to do this, you're going to need it's the 4.6 quarts of 0W20 oil. You can use any type you want. I always use synthetic. Let's see. So I always use the Mobil 1. I've never had any issues with it, so I like to use the Mobil 1 filter and the Mobil 1 oil. So if you're using the Mobil 1 filter, you're going to need the M1 110A and then 0W20. Mine has 120,000 miles on it or so. I switched over to the high mileage this time. It has different additives in it to prevent wear. You'll need some paper towels just in case you make a mess. Oil filter, or I'm sorry, a oil funnel. 17mm socket on any sort of ratchet you want. Then you're going to need an oil filter wrench, a pretty small one. So you can see how small that gets. So if you don't have one of these, you can normally get it by hand, but if you can't, you'll need one of those. You want to go to the smaller one. As you can see, I have a bigger one here, but this one, no matter what the size, you can see that even in the smallest setting of that, it's probably not going to fit this filter super good, and you're not going to get any leverage on it. So you can see it's still loose even on the smallest setting. So you need the smaller oil filter wrench. So anyway, put that back in there till later. Then you'll need a drain pan, obviously. So step one, you can jack the vehicle up if you need to. I did just for this video, but normally I can get under there without having to jack it up. So jack stand, and then what you're gonna want to do is throw your drain pan under there. It's already got some oil in it. Hopefully there's enough. We'll see, or we'll make a mess. So just put it sideways so I can show you. And let me grab my wrench so I'm not getting under there a bunch of times. So 17mm socket on a ratchet. Shouldn't need anything too crazy. Another thing that helps is if you loosen this guy. Oh man, that's tight. So I'll show you a little trick I do. I don't know where my adjustable is, so it's probably, I'll go with a 12. That might fit. Let's see. So, oh man. Go with a 13. So let's see, if you do this and you just give it a turn, it helps a lot. You don't have to use your fingers and struggle with it. So I like to pop this off. Also, I like to keep the engine like pretty warm, not like super hot, so the oil is super hot, but so pop that. That'll just allow some extra breathing room. You don't need to put it back on with this. I just use it to take it off. So let's see. So we'll go under here. So most of you are going to have a plastic piece that goes from your cross member here all the way forward to here. And it clips in a couple places. I remove those from every vehicle I have just because I do all the maintenance myself and I find it kind of annoying to have to fix it or have to take it off and put it back on. And most of the time you're going to break the little plastic rivets that are here. So I mean, you use a tool to pop those out. Most of you are probably going to use a screwdriver, but eventually those are going to break. So I just remove mine because what is a piece of plastic really going to do to save this piece of metal or that piece of metal or that piece of metal, so on and so forth. Anyway, so you just come down here. You have this right here. It says engine oil, and then you have a little arrow. So it's going to be this plug, not this plug. It's going to be this plug. So what you do is you come in here, set your ratchet to off. Like it is. I'm gonna put it on the right one. So set your ratchet to off, and you're gonna push. That was tight. Alright, so take that off. And once it's loose, that's when you get your drain pan kind of set up here. So that as it shoots out, it'll stay in here. And the cap that we took off up top will allow this to flow nice and free. And also, while it's warm like that, it'll, you know, you loosen up all the hard stuff that's in there. So you just pull it out real fast, and you don't even get your hand that dirty. See that? So we'll let that drain for a while, and then we'll go up top and just kind of pull it out, because eventually it's going to lose pressure. So this line shooting out here will actually be like here. So you want to just allow for that, and you just let it drip. Okay, so look at this, and you can see the crush washer came off. You can get these crush washer. You can replace these if you need to, or if you want to. I don't replace them every time, but they do come off of here. It's hard to do with one hand. Let's see. Anyway, let's see. Alright, well, it's gonna be a struggle, so I'll set it up here. Let's see if you can see it or not. So you just kind of pull down on it. That one is really on there. Maybe I should have replaced it every time, huh? Sheesh. Alright, well, anyway, these do come off. Well, they should come off. This one's not. I could get it off there, but it looks fine, and it's probably gonna seal again just fine, so as long as it's not too warped or anything, but it should be fine. So if it's not, I'll try harder to get that off, but I'm not going to right now because there doesn't seem to be a reason to. So I just clean it off real good, and then let's see. So this is your oil filter here. So what you do is you set this up and you fill it up with a little bit of oil there, just so that on the initial startup you have oil flowing through. Let's see if I can not make a mess here. Perfect. So you're just gonna fill it up a little bit, just about like that, and then you take some of this good oil here and you put it on the seal here, so that when you go to take it off next time, because you don't want to spend $80 to $90 on oil for an oil change at a dealership. So you do that, and then you grab your oil filter wrench and you go back under the car, and let's see if it's done draining yet or not. So it's still kind of trickling here. My oil pan is pretty big, so I could usually kind of catty corner it here so that I can catch the drip from the oil filter and that. And so you can look at this and you can see that as this tightens, you're still going to be able to push on it, and it's going to tighten more. So if you had it the other way, if you tightened it, when you pushed on it, it would loosen. So it goes this way, and you're just going to grab it, and you just push a little bit. Okay, got it to move a little bit more. Cool. So I broke it free, so I should be able to get by hand now. Okay, so that's free. Oops. Okay, that's free. So what you want to do is you don't want to pull it out too far, otherwise it'll leak on you. And you just kind of loosen it like that, and it'll let all that oil out. So this is where your napkins will come in handy. And you make it so that it still drips inside the pan from the oil drain plug. And you can get it here, and once it starts to just kind of trickle out like that, you just kind of loosen this. You just spin it off, and eventually it'll fall off. And just be careful, because you're going to get that residual out. And you just set that in your pan here. And so you come down and you pull your filter off, and you make sure that your surface here is clear of any O-rings. You make sure that the O-ring that you took off is still on your oil filter. So sometimes these do come out. See if I can get it up. See, these pop off pretty easy. So sometimes they seal perfectly against there, and you pull the filter off, and this stays there. So if you try to put another filter on, when this is still there, it will go on because there's enough threads, but it won't seal at all. So you'll make a big mess. So anyway, just make sure you have both O-rings off, and you empty out your filter. These pans have a little filter holder there in the corner where it holds it at an angle and it'll drain out, so you can throw it away. Alright, so you let that drain for a little bit. And you don't throw your paper towels on the ground. And then fill up your filter there with oil. You can see all the oil I put in there has already been absorbed in the material. So if you would have put this on, without filling up with oil, all that oil would have absorbed into the filter anyway. So then your engine is running without oil. So that's why you pre-fill that, and you just do a little bit more here. Made a mess this time, and it won't absorb as much this time. So you don't want to fill it all the way up because you're going to make a mess when you go to install it. So just as long as there's like some oil in the media in there, you should be alright. Okay, so I'm going to not spill this and go back under the car, and you can see it's no longer draining here. And you're gonna go in there and you're gonna line that up like so. And as you set it on there, you'll get the angle right. But you can see if you filled it all the way up, then you would just be losing all that fluid anyway. So you'll get the angle right there. And you just hand tighten it. Oil filters you always put on hand tight, pretty strong hand tight. Don't be scared about stripping it with your hand. You shouldn't be able to strip it with your hand. So just put it on as tightly as you can with your hand. And you shouldn't be able to break anything with your hands. If you can, then that's impressive. But you should be good there. And that's done dripping back there. So we will reinstall the drain plug, and then we'll wipe everything off. So the drain plug. Actually, I ordered a bunch of, for my all-wheel drive oil change, I have a bunch of the O-rings, so I wonder if they're the same size. And they are not. So I wonder, are the transmission? Nope. Okay, so the oil drain plug is different from all the other drain plugs. Duly noted. So we'll just reinstall it because I'm fairly confident that that won't leak. And if it does, I'll replace it. Just start everything by hand. If you have air tools, then you always start it by hand and then give the air tool later. But okay, so now that you have both things installed with by hand, you can go down there and wipe everything up because nothing should leak while you're wiping it up. If you had like brake clean or parts cleaner or anything, you could spray that on here right now, just making sure everything's good. But the oil in these things is pretty clean usually, so just wiping it up with a rag is usually good enough. So you can see, just made a clean spot really. And the better you clean it now, the better you'll know later if you actually have a leak or if you were just didn't clean it up good enough and had a drip of old oil, you know? So it's good to clean it up now. Just get all that oil off there, anywhere where it might have settled. If you did this with your plastics on, you'd have oil dripping from here and it would get in your plastics, and then you'd have like an oil leak coming from back here, which doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's why I take my plastics off from under there. I do that on all my vehicles. I've never had any problems. So alright, so once you got all this on here, you're just gonna wipe up any messes you might have made on it. Cool. And then take this out and switch your ratchet back to Tighten, and you just give it a pretty tight. If I can find a torque spec for it, I'll post it in the thing or in the end of the video. But if not, I just go hand tight or ratchet tight, nothing too crazy, just until that compression ring seals there. So we're good. So oil filter's tight, drain plug's tight, so we're good. And then move back up here. We're gonna put, it's like 4.6, so I think I usually end up just putting pretty much the whole 5 in there. Oops, sorry, I guess you can see that. So this is your engine oil dipstick here, the orange one. Pull that out. I just wipe it off real good. And then you put your funnel in the top here from the oil fill cap that we removed. And you come over here and just pour some oil. So technically this is, you're supposed to pour it from the other side. It's supposed to pour like this and it doesn't glug, but pretty good at it. So you just kind of pour a little bit at a time and you don't make a mess. And so these jugs are 5 quarts each. So we'll put most of this one in because we put some in the filter already. So put most of this one in and we'll check it. So there you go. So you got lines here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So put 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll put like 4 and a little bit of quarts in there. I'll do a little more. So that's 4.5. So then we'll stick it here. Pull it out. And so you can see it's just on the bottom dot there. You can see the oils there, so your oil level should be between the two dots here. So you got a low line and a full line, so it should fall somewhere in here. So we're gonna go ahead and do some more, because when you start it, you're gonna lose some oil. Not lose oil, but you're gonna fill up oil passages and stuff. So it should be right around the full mark when you're done filling, because as soon as you start it, it's going to drop a little bit. So we're just go ahead and do the whole thing. Cool. And once you get that done, you're gonna put the cap back on. Before I put the cap on, I like to put a little bit of the residual oil on this seal here, so that next time it's not quite so tight. But no matter what you do, it usually gets really tight on there. So you just turn it. Some of them click like your gas cap, but some of them don't. So that's all you do. Let's check the oil level one more time here. Should be at or just above the full line. So yeah, it's really hard to see because the oil's so clean, but the line is just above the full line. So when we start it, it's gonna fall perfectly in parameters there. Another good thing to check is make sure once you put oil in, you're not dripping anything. So if you're dripping stuff now, then fix it now, but we're not, so we should be good. And I'm gonna wash my hands so that I don't get stuff all over the car. Well, not wash it, but do this. And you're gonna take the key, you're gonna start it real quick for a second and make sure that your lube oil pressure comes up. So, you got your little oil can down here. So you make sure that when you start it, that oil light turns off. And there you go. So it turned off. And then while it's running at idle, you're gonna come in here, make sure you don't have any leaks coming out. It's not. So we're good there. And what you're gonna do is, if you have your maintenance reminder, I accidentally hit it the other day, but you just go menu, and then you're gonna come over here to vehicle information and maintenance info, and then it says oil life 100%, but that's because I hit it accidentally the other day. Really at 10%, so that's when your light comes on, your maintenance reminder light comes on at 10%. So you're going to click that, and it's going to say, would you like to reset maintenance information? And you say yes, and boom, it was reset. So that'll reset your maintenance light. I should have done my video prior to that, but I didn't. So anyway, and that's it. You turn it off, and then we'll go check the level again. So once it's been running, you got to wipe it, just because the oil gets kind of slung around everywhere in there. Stick it in there, and we'll pull it out. and we should be somewhere between the high and low mark. And you can see we're right there, so perfectly in between the high and low mark. And there you go. And that's it. That's all you do for your oil change on a 2015 Honda CRV. It's due every 10,000 miles. Well, that's what the maintenance reminder says. I think this stuff says it'll go 20,000. But I don't know. I just change it whenever the car tells me to. It's good practice. I think this says the same thing for 20,000 miles. Yeah. So the oil and filters say they're good for 20,000, but do it at 10,000. Doesn't really hurt. I think I got those from my auto parts store on a deal. This and this for $30. So it's definitely worth the money to invest in an oil filter wrench, 17mm socket, ratchet, filter. It'll be expensive the first time, but in the long run, it'll save you money. So thanks for watching. I'm gonna post some more videos on stuff that'll save you money and just maintenance that you could do yourself. I'm gonna do the CVT oil change coming up next, and then just post in the comments if there's any videos that you're struggling with on this vehicle, and I will either do a video for you or answer your question directly. All right, thanks for watching.